What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Doing very well, man. Thank you so much. Uh,
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time. I know you're
Thanks
on
for
a little
having
bit of a
me.
break, so to speak, but you are walking the perimeter of the United States.
That is correct.
So tell me about that.
Well, yes, I started on January 7th of this year, 2025, and I started in Sarasota, Florida, where my dad lives. I started on his front porch,
Okay.
and I went south, and and this is one of those things like there's so many. There's so many things that I could have spent time on trying to figure out before I started, but I just had to start. I was like, if I spend all this time on all this stuff, I'm never going to get started. So I said the puzzle pieces will fall into place. And some of the stuff, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just have to learn as I go. So I headed south from Sarasota and walked all the way down to Naples, Florida. Met some really neat people along the way. Um, and when you get to Naples, then you start having to go east a little bit because that's where you're starting to get into the bottom part of Florida where it's very round, but you can't quite walk on the coast there because that's all Everglades. And so I ended up walking all the way through the Everglades. And I there's a town off the path. I'm currently, so at this point I'm walking on Highway 41, which is also called the Tamiami Trail.
Mhm.
And off of that path south, there's a town called Everglades City and Chokoloskee Island, which I walked all the way down to there. And I have to say that the Everglades is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. And one of the coolest parts about it was, and this is a testament to, I've been doing a lot of mental health work with myself the last couple of years, stuff that I didn't understand 20 years ago. And I wouldn't have, even if I would have tried all this work, nothing would have happened. Um, but when I got in the Everglades, I had these feelings I'd never felt before just looking at the scenery, and I could not get over it. It was amazing. These feelings were like an awe. I was like struck by awe, and it was absolutely beautiful walking through the Everglades and seeing. I became I fell in love with watching birds. Never been a bird watcher in my life. All of a sudden now I'm watching all these birds and I love watching them. And um I have this feeling all the way through the Everglades. It won't go away, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I end up taking this road called Loop Road that comes off of 41 and then loops back around to 41. It's about a 24-mile loop. And now on Loop Road, all the alligators are right on the road, which on 41 they're not. They're either across the a canal or they're in a canal. 41 or Loop Road, all right on the road. So I'm literally just a few feet away from all these alligators all the way down Loop Road. And I learned before, like, alligators won't bother you if you don't bother them. Just keep your distance and don't be a jerk to them, and you're fine. And that's what happened. And there was because when I first got in the Everglades, I had this like I actually got nervous. I was like, okay, there's alligators. I've never really been around alligators much before. What's this going to be like? And when I got to Loop Road, I started calming down because like they're either they do two things when you walk by them when you're close. They either just sit there and do nothing or they jump in the water. They were always right next to the water if they were out of it. And so that was really cool. Plus all the beautiful birds there. And it's an amazing walk. And it just made me look forward to more of what I'm going to see because there's so many places I've never been to in the U.S. I've never been into the northwestern states. I've never been to Montana. and places, North Dakota and all that. And I've only heard that those places are just stunningly beautiful. And I cannot wait to get up there, but I can't wait to go just to the next place. So um, I met some really cool people in the Everglades. I met a couple of guys that are from Connecticut. There are these two like mid 20s or late 20s guys that they're trying to make fishing their thing. They're trying to do like TikTok fishing, and they love it down in southern Florida. And I ended up running into them twice, which was so cool. And two completely different trips for them. And then when I went to Chokoloskee Island, south of the Everglades, um, I went to this Cuban restaurant, and the owners, like, as soon as I walked in, one of the owners was like, "Oh man, I saw you walking way down there. Oh, how far are you walking? Where are you going?" And I started explaining my story. He's like, "Where are you sleeping tonight?" And I said, "I have no idea." And he was like, "Well, you can camp out in my yard if you want to." And I was like, "What? No way." So they let me camp in his yard. It turns out they had like five other travelers just like me hanging out.
Oh, wow.
And so I made, and it was a very wide range of people from, you know, one guy just had, he shared his testimony with me. He just went through this whole thing of coming to Jesus and whatnot. And then on the other end, you had a trans man there that was super cool and loved to just talk and hang out. And we were sharing music. And it was so awesome. And everybody was so cool to hang out with. And and then I left there the next day, and then after the Everglades, I get into like Florida City, and I can't remember what that other town is right there. And then I walk all the way down to the Florida Keys, and I walk all the way to Key West, and I'm camping. All this time, a lot of this time, I'm just camping in these spots that I'm trying to be hidden in places. And the bugs aren't really that bad, fortunately, at this time of the year. This is, I don't know the timeline here, but we're probably in February, maybe March at this point. Not really any problems with bugs. I'm camping in parks. I'm camping on beaches. I've camped, behind grocery stores. So a lot of times I'm not setting up my tent because the bugs aren't a problem. Sometimes I have to. Um, and all the way up and down the Keys, I ended up spending 3.5 weeks walking through the Keys, and I spent like 4 nights in Key West, and I did some comedy open mics,
Wow.
and I went and watched some comedy, and I watched the street performers on Mallory Square. If you don't know, Key
Mhm.
West has their famous sunset party every single day in Mallory Square, and there are street performers, and it's a very it's a beautiful sunset to watch, and that's where the big cruise ships dock and stuff. And I had a great time there. I really enjoyed my time. And then I walk all the way back out. And this time, when I come out, I there are two roads that go into the Keys. There's the main road, which is Dixie Highway, and then I cannot remember the name of the other road. So I decided to take the other road out just to have a different view. Because like the 20 miles, the last 20 miles before you get in the Keys, it's all just highway, and there's a huge fence on both sides of the highways for like 20 miles. And it's not the most exciting thing, but plenty of places to camp along that 20 miles, which I did do. I think I only camped one night there, but uh, and then on my way out, I ended up camping on this abandoned house. It was right on the water, and it was abandoned, and the roof was completely flat, and it was set up to where you could like set tables and chairs up, and I just slept on that roof, which was really cool. Never done that before, and and then I get up when I get on the mainland, and Miami's not very far away. Walking through there, end up staying 4 nights there in a hostel. Met some really cool people from Niagara Falls, Canada, uh, they were a lot of fun to hang out with. And we listened. We went to the beach together. We went and saw some live music together. We went and we watched a UFC fight, which I I do like watching UFC. It wasn't in person, but we watched it at a bar somewhere. But um, and then just kept going north, met some really cool people just north of Miami. And one guy who we nonstop talked about music for like 7 days. We were just talking bands, trading music back and forth. It was so awesome. And then I just keep going up the coast, and I can't remember. I wish I could remember everything. Oh, I watched my first rocket launch,
Okay.
which was uh, the Everglades was the coolest thing I've seen. The rocket launch might be the second coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm not sure about that, but it is way up there. And I watched it at night, which I can only imagine watching it at night is way above watching it during the day. But it
Mhm.
was so cool. And I was still like 5 miles away. But man, it lit that sky right up. And it just like looked like a flaming stick going slowly up into the air. And I could see it for 10 whole minutes before it was out of my view. Um, and and I was on a beach when I did that. There was hardly anybody on that beach, and I ended up sleeping on that beach that night.
Nice.
Uh, Man, keep walking up the East Coast. I know I'm forgetting stuff, but I get to St. Augustine, and ended up someone said, "Oh, St. Augustine's a really neat place." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I ended up staying there just on a whim for 2 months. I got a work stay at this tiny hotel called the Pirate House, which is a really cool place to stay. The owner is super awesome. It's only like 7 rooms,
Mhm.
and they she has a few like four volunteers at a time staying there to help keep the place clean, and all the all the pancakes and all the pasta I could eat. So I was like, I didn't
You're
buy
like
a
sold. I'm there.
yeah, I didn't buy a single meal for 2 months.
That's
So
awesome.
and I just stayed there, and and there was street performers, and I played a little bit on the streets, and I played a little bit a couple of times up to this point. Um, which is part of the walk. I'm trying to get myself into street performing, and that's the biggest part of it that I haven't quite got into yet. But when I was in St. Augustine, I got this new found drive to play and practice music, and I practice like I've never practiced before. And when I'm talking about this mental health thing earlier, like I didn't realize so I've had a lot of anxiety in my life, and I didn't realize that it affected everything in my entire life. Every
Yes.
single thing that I did, from social interactions to practicing music to just trying to learn things to work to everything. And now I'm able. I've been working on it really hard, and I've had some really good breakthroughs with it. And I'm like, I'm relaxing. I'm in my mid 40s, and I'm relaxing for the very first time in my life.
That's
Never been able to relax.
crazy. Yeah, no, I get you there for sure. And anybody that's creative in any way, I'm sure understands what you're saying. Because I just had somebody the other day that called me and asked me if I wanted to play somewhere, and I couldn't because it's like you got the day job and you got the thing and you got the stuff and you can't find the time. And
Hmm.
like you said, you just get not the anxiety thing for me, but I get lost in that hole, kind of that depression thing. And
Yeah,
you can't, like you said, you can't find the headspace to just create and do what you want to do because the rest of life is just pummeling you constantly.
yeah.
So what you were saying about, your mental health thing, I know part of the walk obviously is the adventure, but um, talk some more about the mental health clarity or the work that you're getting out of it, or however you want to say that.
Yeah. So I think like a lot of my life, I didn't realize that I wasn't relaxing. I just thought that the way I was feeling was normal.
Mhm.
And I just thought that I had like I've been playing music now for I mean off and on for over 30 years, and I've had this really bad problem with performing live. and it's affected. Well, and also, you're aware that I do stand up too. It's affected heavily my live performances in both. And I was still, I mean, I played hundreds of music shows, and I still was at a point where like I would be so nervous that it would be debilitating on stage. Like that's stuff that most people get over within the first couple of months. Yeah, they might be nervous before they play, but not when they get up on stage. They're not having problems, being able to fret a chord
Yeah.
after a couple of months. But I'm still having that problem 30 years later. And that was how strong that anxiety had a hold of me, and I didn't know what that was, but I just kept wanting to play, and I never quite understood that. But um, so it's hard to explain all this stuff, but like I learned to start um, I had to start focusing on not caring what people thought, and that was a really hard thing for me. I was a really big people pleaser. That was a big problem. That was detrimental. I would let people walk all over me, and I did that my whole life too. And I think all of that was tied into anxiety. Like somehow I was more worried about what people thought of me than anything. And I slowly, actually, of anything, stand-up comedy might have been the factor that started the downfall of that. Because when you're doing stand-up and you're constantly failing at it, you're doing it in front of an audience,
Yeah.
and it's humiliating. And you go over, and when you're failing a lot, like I was having debilitating anxiety every single performance most of the time. I had moments here and there that were good, um, but most of my performances were terrible. And it's just like you just keep going through this moment of humility. And eventually, I guess I kind of started getting to where it didn't bother me so much. And then I slowly started noticing I was becoming less embarrassed by things. And I think that I started seeing a therapist a couple of years ago, maybe about 2.5 years ago, um, and who happened to be a very good friend of mine. And I just laid it all out. And he told me the best thing I ever heard in my life, or one of the best things, was that, and a big part of all this was I went through a very long period of drug and alcohol abuse and did some terrible things that I was very regretful of. And that just made everything worse. And the drugs and alcohol just made everything worse. So it was all just making everything worse. And he said that I don't care who you used to be, I care who you are now. And I honestly, I thought everyone I ever met, if they knew who I used to be, that's all they would care about up until he said that.
Yeah.
I I thought I held that very tightly, and I cared about who I used to be, and I hated myself very much for that. And that was another moment. That was a very slow but like a breakthrough moment that helped me start to learn how to relax and be who I am. And I think the fact that because I feel like this walk is my purpose in life. I honestly feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, and I don't quite understand it yet, but I just have to go do it, and I'll figure it out along the way. And playing music and telling jokes is a part of that because all I want the the big part of the walk is I just want people to be happy. It's all I want. And that includes me. I want to be happy too. And I've realized by doing this walk, if I'm following my purpose, at first I didn't really get why this is my purpose. And I still don't completely, but the puzzle pieces are falling into place now. Everything's starting to make sense. Like, oh, now I know why now I really know why I spent all those years in college, which I don't use my degree anymore. And I loved what I was learning in college, which was chemistry, but it didn't really click. And that big part was anxiety. A big part was I didn't know my whole approach to learning was wrong until after I got out or I was about to get out. But what I really learned in college was how to be cheap That's honest truth. College taught me how to live cheap because I couldn't make it through without doing that. And
Sure.
now that's making sense. And other things that I've done in life. And it's like, oh, now I see why I did that. Now I paid off all my debt a few years back, and I said I'm never going to go in debt again unless I absolutely have to. And because I'm out of debt, this allows me to do this walk. And that's a completely freeing feeling
Yeah.
to not be held down, and I can do what I want to do. And but playing the music and the comedy, that was a big part of making this. I didn't see it because I struggled so hard with performing, but I love being on stage, and I couldn't get that. And when I was in St. Augustine and I started getting this drive to play, and I was playing like 6 to 10 hours every day. I've never played like that before, and I'm just like, I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm digging it, and I'm like actually being patient with my playing now, with my practicing. I'm like, you got to slow this down, and it might take you a week to even go up another 4 BPMs, but you'll get better if you just slow down.
Mm.
And I started actually seeing progress, like real progress and doing things that I tried so hard a couple of years ago to do that I couldn't do, I never could do. Now all of a sudden, like they're starting to click, and I started getting back into music theory, and I was like, oh, there's all these patterns. How did I never see this before? And it just made it learning it so much easier, and I don't have to memorize everything.
Yeah.
And um, and so now I'm starting to see that okay, here's another example. So I'm playing the ukulele. It's a good travel instrument. Um, and I'm okay. I'm okay at it at the start of this walk. And but I have a really hard time performing and making frets because my fingers are so tense. But I just learned that I've played off and on for more than 10 years, and I played guitar off and on for a while. And I just learned just like 3 months ago that I don't have to squeeze the neck so tight. And like I didn't understand how people could move up and down the neck so quickly because
Yeah.
like I was squeezing it so tight, I couldn't do that. I just figured that out. So, and that's just yet another thing with anxiety. So,
Yeah.
so all of this, like all these puzzle pieces are just starting to fall into place. And I have this whole new love for life that I'd never had before because this anxiety is at an all-time low. And and I keep working with it, and I keep seeing how ways I used to act around people. And I was like, wow, I was making, this this problem somebody else's problem. I was trying to make it about me because I was trying to get, I wanted people to feel bad for me for for the attention, and I didn't. I did that for a long time, and it was all goes back to the anxiety, but it's meeting people now. Now that's the coolest part. That's one of the coolest things too. There's so many cool things, and I can't like I'm just like
Sure.
erratically speaking, but like I love meeting people now. Never I I have moments in life where I enjoyed meeting people, but most of the time I didn't because I would be so awkward. I wouldn't know how to hold a conversation, and I honestly felt for 30 plus years that no one had any interest in anything I had to say, no matter what it was. So why would I bring up a conversation? But then I always felt like if I was standing with somebody and we're both being quiet, that it's all my fault. I took all the blame. Like it's my fault we're not talking. So then I would try to talk, and anxiety would go, I don't know what to say right now. And I'd go, I don't either. And I would just try to make this awkward conversation. And now I'm having all these conversations that are great, and I love them, and I've met so many cool people, and um, and that backpack that I carry has sparked so many interesting conversations that I can't get enough of it, and people are so interested in it, and then I meet someone and I get to know them, and just like the Chokoloskee Island, I'm meeting all these people from all these different walks of life, and I met a guy who I don't remember where I was in Florida's East Coast, but he had walked all the way from the Arctic Circle up in Alaska, all the way down there. And he now, I don't even know where he's at now. He went all the way. I know that after we saw each other, he was going down through the Keys and then back up north again, and which is crazy cool. And then I met a guy who happened to be a Jehovah's Witness, but he'd worked on Cape Canaveral on the Rockets for over 30 years, and super interesting guy, very nice, very down to earth, and I've been preached at multiple times, which I'm totally down with, because part of the idea of this walk is, I don't know how I'm going to make this. I want to be the best me I can be. I want to
Sure.
be the best example of my ideas that I can be without telling people what to do. And I think I don't. I think that that's a big problem, and maybe with people is, especially online, is they just look at each other at the surface, and then they can't get past that, and
Right.
so their conversations can't go beyond that, and they tend to be they're just clashing and arguing negatively. You can have good civil arguments about things, and that's what I want. That's if someone's going to preach to me, maybe I don't agree with some of the things they're saying, and I'll be honest and be like, okay, well, this is how I feel. And if we do that civilly, then we can both learn things about and be better people. And if we can also come to, agree to disagree, but we're friendly about it, and maybe we
Right.
even keep a friendship over it. So
Well,
that's
something you said earlier actually reminded me of baptism when you were talking about your therapist that said, you know, what you did before doesn't matter.
right.
It's who you are now that I like. And it reminded me of baptism because that's the basic symbol. It's like everything, your sins from before are washed away and you're starting new. That's the first thing that I thought when you said that, which I think is awesome. So speaking of, you're talking about the guy from the Arctic Circle and yourself. You've got a YouTube channel so that people can follow you.
Yes.
What's your YouTube channel?
My YouTube, as well as my TikTok and my Instagram, are all at Blake's Big Walk.
Okay. Fantastic. And so you've got a ways, but when you get up into the South Carolina area, so I used to live in Myrtle Beach for about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And ironically, I worked with alligators while I was there.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so I still know a few people there. So when you get up there, you'll have to let me know and I'll reach out to some people and see if I can help you along the way for sure.
Oh, that would be
But
fantastic.
Um, I want to say thanks for taking the time to chat, and I want to do this more for sure, while you're out there. Um, and I'm sure tons of people have told you this, especially now, but you're an inspiration, man. I mean, what you're doing is, um, it's crazy brave. Most people, the story that you had told about your anxiety, about music, they would have given up already. And, you went so the opposite direction of no, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to figure it out. Like I'm going to break through this wall. And that is so impressive, brother. I mean, like I said, it's just inspirational. And I hope that, you know, people pick up on that and that you inspire them to do the same. That's awesome.
Well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that because I do like. I mean, part of that, because I've been inspired by people. That's where it all came from, or at least partly from me. So I want to be a better person, and I want to. I did enough bad stuff in my life and made the world a more negative place that there's no reason to do that anymore. I have to make the world a positive place. And I had to start right here. That's where I had to start. I had to start with me. And and so that's what a lot of this is, starting with me.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat, brother.
Thank
Um,
you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, and I definitely want to do it more. Um, So I'll link your sites underneath. Everybody, keep an eye out for Blake. Is there a way when they get to your sites, can people send you donations to help with your travels and whatnot? Or is I know
Okay.
your buddy, I know your buddy John had one time had put up a Venmo for you.
He did. I do. I have the Venmo, and I think I have PayPal too. I honestly, I think my Venmo is at Blake dot Champlin. Um, I can't remember. And I will say this before we get off of here.
Yeah.
I If people want to help me, that's great. I appreciate it very much, and I will take it because I understand, you know, people want to do good, and they feel that that's doing good. Um, in the long run of this, what I would rather people do is I would rather them donate to a cause, whether it's money or time, that helps, that makes them that they're happy for, whether it doesn't matter what the cause is, or maybe that instead of giving me money, maybe you're just a random thing. Maybe you've been talking about going to the gym for 10 years, and you go, okay, today's the day I'm going to go to the gym, and you keep doing that, and you keep doing that. Or maybe you're estranged from a family member, and you've been wanting to talk to them for years, and you're like, okay, today's the day I'm going to call. We're gonna try to patch this up, or whatever. Anything that makes the world that much better. Because if enough things are done, then all of a sudden the world's that much better, and that much better, and so on. That's what I want to inspire people to do more than anything. So, but I'm not gonna not take the money. But if you want to give it to me, I do appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
But if you feel inspired to do something else, then by all means, go for it.
perfect. All right, Blake. Thank you, buddy. Be safe out there when you get back on the road, and
Ahsanoma
we'll keep checking
Namaheya.
in for sure.
All right. Thank you very
All right,
Ahsanoma
much.
buddy. Thanks. Bye.
Namaheya.
All right. Bye.
Ahsanoma Namaheya. Ahsanoma Namaheya. Sending love your way. It's a hey. Ahsanoma Namaheya. Ahsanoma Namaheya. Ahsanoma Namaheya. Sending love your way. Sending